It's an Oliver 70 and it's owned by the Orther family. Next up is a 1940 Oliver 60 roll crop. This is owned by the Orther family. We have a 1951 Oliver 66 roll crop, but this is also owned by the Orther family. You notice this is a family tradition. The next one up is the 1952 Oliver 77, and we've got Joy Barrett. Then we have a 1952 Oliver 77, and that is driven by Ed Orther, and it's owned by the Orther family. Happy birthday. Here we have a Oliver 88 diesel, and this is owned by John Judith. 1959 model. Next is the 1966 Oliver. It's a 1950 GM diesel in there, and that's owned by Dave and Brian Gagne, driven by Mr. Rogers. Next we have an Oliver 37 Oliver Hart car. It's the beginning of the Oliver family. It's an Oliver 70. That's owned by Dave and Brian Gagne. Here we have a 1983. This is the home-built John Deere, and this is Mackenzie's driving her dad's tractor that her grandfather built for her dad many years ago. How's that? Here's a 1976 214 John Deere with a tiller in the back, and that's driven by Madison Rayburn. Now this is Marv Baumann coming up with his string of tractors, and I hope he's got labels on each one, but I can't. You forgot it. This is a V8 flathead. 1953 Ford flathead V8, and then the next behind him is a 48 Ford 8N, and it has a 351 Ford V8 in it. Behind that is the 350 Chevy. And then he has his Chrysler. Okay, what's the last one, Marv? This is the Honda. Oh, it's on there. The Valkyrie motorcycle engine. Then we have the John Deere 70 by Marvin Baumann. That's not Marvin Baumann driving that. Granddaughter Courtney. There we go. Alright, we have a 40 Ford Model 9N. Bought and it's owned by Daniel W. Howell out of Marshall, Michigan. Thank you, sir, for coming that far. It's a 49 Cub. It's a McCormick Dairy Cub, and it's owned by, which ones he got on there? It does have the Darren McKinney family. How's that?
We have
Bigger? Okay. Next up is a 1965 International Cup with Jim Krieger on it. Did I say right? Good.
Look, look at that dress Look, I'll get lazy on that fish back here. Oh, that'll be weird.
Here we have a 39 Farmall 8. It smells like Clinton White. Go back across this year. 1955 Ford 860. This is owned by George and Linda Batchley. Here we have a 1943 John Deere B, and it's Chad Reed. Farmall A with John Hill at the wheel. $1950 John Deere 8.0. That's an Orchard tractor. It's owned by Jim Laming. $37 Chalmers WC. Laverne Meyer and Son. Next we have a 1952 Ferguson TO30. Glenn and Andrew Meyer. Here we have a 1954 Ford NAA by Audia McDaniel. This is a 47 Gibson D, and it's Kyle Gauch. If you notice, he doesn't have a steering wheel yet. He's using a tiller steering. He's got the tiller in his right hand. Hold it. Farmall AB by Matt. They got me on a short leash. I can't get out there. Here we have a 1948 Ellis Chalmers C by Brian Eichler. I worked with an L. Here we got Dad's Toy, 1945 DN, owned by Phil A. Seegert and Jim A. Seegert, in memory of James B. Seegert. I ran out of Seegert. This is a 1963 International 706 diesel, and then David Charlesworth. Next up is a 72 Cup Cadet, and it's driven by Eleanor Eisenman. It's a Lowboy 154. Only at 176. This is a 1929 Farmall Regular by Fred Hall. How you doing, guys? Looks like the whole family up there, right? 1950 John Deere B. Jim Gretzler in Jackson. Driven by what? Kevin and Logan. Here we have a Farmall Super MTA, and it's owned by the Von Holland family, and it's Kevin and Logan up there on the seat and steering wheel of that tractor. This is a Case 430 and it's driven by Ted Weisbecker. It has a hand clutch on it. All right. Here we have a Farmall Cup 1948 and it's owned by Dan Mulholland and it's driven by John. It's a 52 Cup and it's owned by Louis Fidelso. International Golf with Trent Racing. Here we have a 1947 Alex Chalmers B. It is Bob and Donna Streeter. The 1945 John Deere 8, owned by Bill Mantell, and that's his grandson there on his right. Here we have a 1939 Ford 9N, owned by Dave and Pat Schaefer, and it was built the first day of production, given to Dave's father by Henry Ford. Here we have an International 1256 owned by Dan Mulholland and driven by George Berkey. This is a 53 Ellis Chalmers WD. It's driven by William Cousineau, and it's in memory of John Cousineau, and he's a past member. This next one is a 37 Ellis Chalmers WC. It's owned by Rick Cousineau, and it's also in memory of John Cousineau. Next one is a 44 Ellis Chalmers C, owned by Rick Cousineau in memory of John Cousineau. Thank you, gentlemen, for bringing that out for us. Here we have a 37 R42 Silver King, and it's owned by Tim Metzger. He's the one that's hiding down here behind the contraption that's coming at it. Friday, it's a wiggle pole, and it's driven and owned by Tim Metzger. If you notice, he's steering that with his feet. Next is the 47 Silver King, owned by John Metzger. 1952 is owned by Paul Weeks. Here we have a 58 International Super C, owned by Kim and Brian Rayburn. Next, we have a McCormick Super W4, 1953 vintage, and is owned by Anthony Hale. Here we have a 1950 Minneapolis Moline RTE, and it's owned by Dave and Brian Gagne. Here we have a 45 John Deere B, and it's owned by the Rayburn family. We got a 1954 John Deere 60, owned by Jim McCain. Oh, you just bought it? Well, you gotta change the chain. Okay. Next we have a 1955 Oliver Super 55 diesel. And that one's owned by the Orzer family. Were you playing yesterday? Playing on the bullet track yesterday? No. I saw all them weights. Next we have a 1967 Oliver 550. Only has 1,240 original hours on it, and it's owned by the Orzer family.